Be intellectually correct. Stay IP.
Hello again. We're sitting with Eben, and he'll tell us a bit more about himself. But we had an interesting discussion at Comic-Con earlier this year about AI and generative AI, and we're just like, whoa, this needs to be done properly and then recorded so that we can share it with other people, because I know out of experience, and I'm sure, I think this is one of the things we spoke about, is a lot of people have the same or similar questions, but the content online is either AI generated, and AI talking about AI doesn't make sense. Oh, it does make sense, but can you trust it? Can you not trust it? And there's this massive, I want to say, wall or just divide between people for generative AI and people against generative AI. And I know there's a group of people in between, like myself, where it's like, okay, there's positives and negatives, but you can't be for or against AI or generative AI. You must be for or against the ways in which it is used, yes. But information about that positive and negative together isn't out there as much as it should be. So a discussion like this would definitely help. And I know we spoke about this beforehand. You probably have a list of your book of questions. But before we go into that, and before we go into the nitty-gritty about generative AI, and again, this is a very basic one. It's probably going to be second and third chats at as well. Just what's your background? What do you do? And how are you involved, and where do you see in your line of work AI, and especially generative AI, flowing into that area, that space?
Christian, I want to take a step back.
Yes.
And then I'll answer your question.
Okay.
But as you correctly stated, we met at Comic-Con. And it was by random chance. And I don't know why I asked the question about AI. I didn't fully know even your background. And that what it was, it just was by pure luck. But if I recall, you were there specifically at Comic-Con for work. Yeah. What did you guys do there?
So at Comic-Con, we were there obviously to promote the company and the intellectual property service we offer, but we were there for a core focus of being there to firstly assess the potential counterfeiting and fan art misuse, and advise not only the exhibitors but also Comic-Con afterwards on how to just educate more around what is fan art, what is not fan art, and also curb that overwhelming drive by it's driven by misunderstanding to a large extent, but where people create counterfeit goods under the belief or under the misconception that, oh no, it's fan art, so I can use it. So our main focus at Comic-Con was more to deal with that. This is fan art, that is not fan art. This is counterfeit and infringement, and how can we make sure that things like that, the counterfeits and infringement, cannot be at a place like Comic-Con. And obviously it's a time, it takes years to get that right, but that's why we were there.
Yeah, so I think it's right in your wheelhouse. And you can see with all the pop art, it's right there. So you asked my background. So I'm used to more behind the camera. I'm actually engineer by trade, but then as a sideline, I'm involved with filmmaking. So from that perspective, I'm very interested in generative AI. And I think that triggered our discussion about copyright and the use of generative AI. And I jokingly said to you that AI is coming for all of us. And to a degree, I still think that.
Yeah.
And like you correctly said, there's two camps. Well, and probably middle ground as well. But the one camp is no, AI is a bubble. It will burst. It will just disappear. And then there's school of thinking, no, this is only the start. I'm thinking that you cannot ignore it. We have to accept that it's part and parcel of our lives. And I've got another question for you. You mentioned that you guys got AI that you use in office.
Yes.
Would you care to elaborate?
So the AI we use in Office is it's in-house built AI that's based on OpenAI language models. To go into technical, so it is not ChatGPT, but it has the same ability as ChatGPT. GPT, always get that wrong, to as Chat. But because it is built and trained by us, it does not have access to the internet. So it doesn't look at the internet to give you an answer. It doesn't look at biases and things like that. It's only trained by us, only has the data we have. We obviously monitor it and make sure that how it generates is accurate. It took us just over a year before we were comfortable with allowing the public to have access to all the chat side. And then we use it internally for other mundane tasks and to assist with record keeping and stuff like that. Stuff that you usually would use people to do, but it can be fulfilled by AI, by good programming and language models, because to me that's still fun. AI in the true sense of it doesn't exist yet. But it's smart language model, adaptive algorithms, things like that just got better and better. And then the moment it became public, people were like, oh, this is AI. So we've got that tool. We call it I Know. I Know is actually listening to us now, because that's how she said she's a she identified herself as she, gets the information and understands how we direct it, how we approach clients, how we engage with clients based on the knowledge and the data we have. And it's trained on intellectual property and South African based stuff, and my knowledge and the rest of the staff's knowledge, and then also without infringing copyright, because we're very aware of copyright and very, very adamant about we're not going to train it on stuff we can't. So we use information and technical data and academic data and things like that to train her in being able to, that the public sees, is to answer those basic questions that you don't really need a lawyer to answer, but you usually phone them. And we do it for free, because to me, it's not, oh, wow, the public should be able to say, oh, wait, what's the difference between a trademark and a patent? Without needing to worry, I'm going to phone a lawyer and ask them, and they're going to charge me to say it. And we're like, okay, well, ask there. And without asking Chat, because Chat will give you sort of a right answer, but you can't always trust it. And it's very easy. And I always tell people, if you think Chat or Grok or whatever you're using is able to do complex engagement and complex analysis, ask it to make you an image. And then ask it to change the image for you, the dimensions of the image for you. It can't understand basic instruction, because it's algorithm, it's input-output, and it's got preconceived biases that's trained into it for the use it has, where ours doesn't have it. I mean, don't ask Anna to make you an image at work. We'll not know why. So that's Anna is just the nice part of it, but we use it to simplify mundane tasks internally, to give basic knowledge and answer to the general public free of charge, because if they understand basics about IP, it makes my life easier as well. And we use it to save on costs and overheads to be able to offer services that is usually not accessible to general public and not accessible to startups and SMEs. I'm generalizing now, to be able to offer these complex, highly specialized services at an affordable rate. And before the hate comments come there, we adopted AI in the beginning, so we didn't fire anyone to implement AI. We used AI where there wasn't staff to fulfill that need. And that's, to me, one very adamant thing. We can go into that a bit, but...
But it's filling a gap, and
Yes.
and it's helping with fulfilling that niche.
Yeah, and it also, that not just ours. I think AI. So my view is AI is, yes, it's here to stay. AI won't take your job. The person that uses AI to its best potential to better his job will take your job, not yours. That obviously that argument. So AI is a very effective assisting tool. But the moment you rely on AI to be your go-to, that's where you lack. And we see it often where people send somebody a letter of demand, they respond with, which is clearly AI generated. We know how to spot those things. And they don't go to a lawyer because they trust Chat or Grok or whichever one they have, Gemini, will give them the right answer. And then it's like, no, this is completely wrong. This is based on American law, European law.
Exactly.
And you're not going to a lawyer because you trust this AI where you shouldn't. And it sometimes comes down to the basic prompts. If you don't understand prompting, you're going to get the wrong answer. Silly example I gave somebody last week was, if you tell AI to compare item A with item B, it will compare item A with item B. But it doesn't know that item A and item B is not related to each other by this law, because that's not how it do this, it does it. Where a human, a lawyer, would understand, okay, but these two documents are not related to each other because in that act it excludes these types of aspects. And well, yeah, AI would know that, but you would need to prompt it to know not to consider this. And most people don't. They're just like, where is this applicable? It was like AI will go find something even though it's not.
Yeah.
And what would they call it?
Hallucination.
Hallucination.
Yeah.
Yes. And so AI is a valuable tool. And because of that, I'm very for and pro AI, but used correctly.
Okay. So you know, and apologies, I've got a book here, buddies. I've got some questions, especially about generative AI.
Yes.
But maybe just to set the scene, that AI, generative AI, what in general does it mean, right? It's where you text to image or text to video or text to music. So basically, as you alluded to, you will describe something and that will be the input, and then it will go through its diffusion model or whatever, and it will then try and generate the image or the video or the song or even software. Yes, as per your instruction.
Yeah,
it's not perfect.
No,
but it's improving on a daily basis. All right. So I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add to that technical part before I go into the copyright
I don't
discussion.
I don't think we need to go into too much technical detail. I think the most important thing that we can mention is there's a very big difference between the types of AI. Generative or Gen AI is a very specific thing. That's what most people have. Most people engage with Gen AI.
Is aware of that, yeah.
But so that they just know that's a very specific one facet of AI. And yes, there is this. It's getting better, but just because I can't go and write software that can do something perfect like I want to, even though I go and use AI, because I'm not a software developer. I won't know, okay, great, this doesn't work. AI can't fix it because you're going to ask it to fix it and it's just going to spit out something that the issue is still there because it created the issue. It can't fix the issue it created. Music, again, there's all of this technical context with you're working with something that it does not understand the concept of music because it's not creative. It can't listen to music like we listen to music. It doesn't have the emotional aspect to it. So it looks at pre-existing music and pre-existing genres and what we taught it or taught databases that it was trained by to go to. So if you tell it to make 90s rock, somewhere in that book of data it will reference Roxette because it's 90s rock. That's its thing. Where if I say 90s rock, I know what it sounds like. I have this preconception of the sound without needing to go to something specific.
And that feeling and the nuance
is the emotion part of it. So I know this is not a technical aspect, but that's the one thing that people working with generative AI and all the discussions I had with artists and musicians that, it's going to take us over. I always tell them, AI does not have emotion. That feeling you have when you see a painting, AI can't comprehend that because you can't explain it to it. You can't feel what you feel. So it can't create something that invokes that feeling and can create an amazing like a complex art piece. But emotion is always lacking. And that's why people are like, we know that's AI. Why? Because it lacks the feeling. Even if you take a digital artist, which, I mean, digital art looks like digital art, but it's somebody that went and made it, and you create AI similar to it. For something just looks wrong, and it's the emotional part that's missing. So when people work with AI, they forget that. They think, it comes out. But the reader or the listener or the watcher or the art enthusiast, it misses that human element. And I think that's something that I probably will never be able to completely get right because it doesn't have human emotion.
And I think I will elaborate on that.
Yeah.
But you did mention something very applicable to the discussion from a technical perspective, and that is that AI are trained by a massive data set.
Yes.
And there's different ways of approaching that these companies do. Some of them just scrape the internet, and they go and look at millions of cat photos and images to be able to generate a cat. And there's a lot of information available, but it's not necessarily vetted. So that is something I would like to explore in terms of copyright, because I've got a specific view on that.
Yes.
But I think let's just get right to it. So if I generate something with AI, who owns the copyright?
Glad you asked that. So the first thing you have to understand.
But specifically considering South African law, because there's some information from American perspective available, but I couldn't find really anything with South African context.
Yes.
So
yeah, in South African, that's where I usually start with this. Is first thing you need to understand is when South African copyright law would apply. For as far as the scenario is where you are a South African creating. So in terms of South African law, the first thing to remember is only humans can create under copyright. Only a human can be an author. Yes, non-humans can be owners, but they can't be authors. Now, the South African copyright distinguishes between an author, who is the creator, and the owner. And then it goes into a lot of nuances going beyond that. But and a lot of other countries follow this rationale that authors needs to be human. So if I'm not human, meaning I am AI, or I am a program, or I am a company that owns the program, I cannot create. Therefore, I cannot be an author. Therefore, what is created is not really subject to copyright, which complicates it. So where do we look at when we decide first then? This is the first point. Before we go on to who owns it, we need to establish is, can this work, this output actually be subject to copyright? Because if AI cannot be an author, then the product it develops, the song that comes out, the image that's created by it, is not authored by a human, therefore it is not subject to copyright, therefore it cannot be owned, because if it's not subject to copyright, copyright can't be owned. So that first step is, to what extent is there human involvement? Because, yes, you're now using AI to create something. Hey, make me an image of a cat. It's not creative. That input is not enough.
But that is the argument.
Yeah, that's the argument. The other argument is, okay, if I write you a 30-page prompt, create something specific, then I'm the author, because the creation sits with me and AI just was my paintbrush.
But where's that line?
That's the problem. It's open to interpretation, like most law is, unfortunately. So that's the first hurdle to go over, is the prompt sufficient enough to establish authorship in me as the prompter, to be the creator? Now, let's say yes. Let's, for argument's sake, yes, I did not just say make me an image of a cat. I explained in great detail how this cat should look. Now, under author or co-author, please don't quote me on this, but co-author of this, so yes, that's subject to copyright. Now, who owns it? Because in copyright law, the author is usually the owner, unless is usually if there's a contract to contrary, or unless I'm a full-time employee and I create it under the scope of my employment, which is not the case in AI, because I'm not appointed by the AI, I'm just a user. So we fall back on the second and the first one I mentioned is, what is the contractual engagement with us? Those T's and C's that everybody just ticks to go forward. What are those T's and C's actually say? When you're using ChatGPT, by the way, the terms and conditions on ownership is 100% you as the prompter, you as the user retains ownership. ChatGPT actually gives ownership to the user, 100%.
I did not know.
But it can still use it for itself, because thank you for giving me input, I'm using it for my training yard.
Yes.
So that's the contractual obligation. You own the output, subject to obviously under your law, your country's law, it can be owned, but we retain use. We can use it as part of our training model.
Yes.
So that's an interesting fact that a lot of people don't know. Other AI platforms have different approaches. We are. Thanks for creating this amazing music for us.
So it's quite important to understand the T's and C's.
Yes, that to read a specific application. Yes, and I'm glad you said understand it, because just reading it isn't sufficient. You have to understand it. You have to look firstly at, okay, great, this is an American platform with T's and C's drafted for American law. How does that apply to me as a South African, using it to make Amapiano music? And the reason I'm saying that is we recently had a post about the first South African Amapiano album created by AI. And obviously prompted by a musician, but he used it to create the lyrics after, not the lyrics, the music itself.
Yeah.
And so the understanding how the law that governs the aspects of the contract or the terms and conditions of that platform you're using impacts on yours. So firstly, don't just use something, read the T's and C's if you are using it to create for the sake of making a living or publishing it. So the copyright is complex because you might own it or you might not, or there might not even be copyright depending on the input. So copyright becomes complicated with generative AI.
How much is determined by the T's and C's then and the local law?
Most of it would be determined by the terms and conditions, because remember, terms and conditions is essentially a contract between you as the user and the platform owner. And it governs under that how the ownership of copyright will be dealt with. And the majority of countries follow or sort of harmonized copyright law, so that it is a fairly similar approach in most countries. So the biggest difference would be fair use is not applicable in all countries. Like South Africa, we don't have fair use currently.
I did not know that.
So fair use is everybody's like, yeah, but it's fair use. South Africa does not have fair use. We've got fair dealing, which is a specific list of, I think, about 5 exclusions to copyright infringement. Fair use is a sort of I always say fair use is the right to take to court. People use fair use for multiple things because it's a more open interpretation, where fair dealing, which we have in South Africa, is very specific. It is copyright infringement unless it is this, or this. And most people using AI won't fall within that category. So we don't have fair use in South Africa, but America does.
Yeah, and
so again, there's an American platform can use fair use, but how does it impact if it uses South African content? So it becomes that
for sure, and debated. Because I was also under the impression that we use fair use, and that's actually the people that take these generative AI companies to court in America. The companies usually use fair use as
the defense.
As a defense.
Yeah.
And in a lot of these court cases, there's either no outcome yet, or there's a settlement out of court.
Yes. Undisclosed settlement, so it doesn't help at all. We don't know what's happening. Yes. So that's the, I'm going to say, problem with fair use is it's a very easy, I don't know, the source fair use, prove me wrong, defense. And then it goes through court or it goes to settlement, or it never gets to a point where it actually adds to the law. Where in South Africa, fair dealing is a list, but if you take somebody to court based on the list, the outcome is more, well, we know what outcome, or we can relatively anticipate what a specific outcome would be because of that. Just for interest's sake, the current proposed amendments to the Copyright Act, or CAB, like everybody knows it, is looking at introducing a form of fair use. So it's not going to be as fair use like it is in America per se, but we are looking at implementing fair use. And there's a big fight against it because of that problem we have in America. We see in America where it's costly most South African artists won't be able to take Google to court.
No.
Well, if they claim fair use, you're going to have to. Where if it's fair dealing, is a very clear-cut thing. And before people say, yeah, but you still need to take him to court, the implications of having a clear-cut list of it's not these means that it's almost certain they will lose if it's not one of those exclusions. So settlement is more likely because the lawyer will be like, yeah, you were wrong, settle this. So that's what makes a clear list so beneficial for a country like South Africa is, they're wrong, so you don't have to go to court to finish this. And that's why fair use, in my mind, is a bit of a problem in some countries. It makes sense in some countries, it makes sense in others. It doesn't make sense in other countries.
So it does become complicated. Yes. If you, for example, you've got a song and mostly generated by AI and you want to release it internationally. So suddenly you need to consider all these things.
Yeah, definitely. And music is a good example because, again, you're falling back on, is it actually subject to copyright? What extent of the sweat of the brow from the creator was put in? That's the first thing you have to consider. Secondly, again, who owns it? What is the contract? What platform did you use? And what is the contractual implication? Is it your IP or their IP? And then also what is the law? And is there, and I think this is something that's probably going to become in the not so distant future more relevant as well, is what is that local law where you want to release it on AI generated products? How do they deal with it? Great, you made a song, but can you get royalties on this? Because maybe the Australian law says we don't pay for music royalties and that's AI generated. Because I know there's a big thing in Australia about music can't be used to train without consent. Because a lot of countries are now moving towards that. So, or in putting it into regulations and law. So people will, or countries will start having different views, and it will go and cycle through into their laws. And now you're going to have to also consider that. Okay, great. I get around all the laws of the creation, but now the use is a problem. Plus, and this is the other thing, I'm not releasing, arguments said all of those things are fine. I'm releasing my AI-generated music internationally. The AI platform I use retains the use. They may, so yeah, it's yours, but we can use this for future songs. Now, somebody creates a song that sounds similar. Why? Because it's part of the AI language model, the training data set. So it's likely somebody's going to start creating something else. How do you deal with that? Because yes, it's my copyright, but I gave their platform the right to use this for future music is created. Naturally, something will sound similar. How do I deal with that? And who infringed? The AI can't infringe because it's not human. It doesn't have that ability. So the prompter of the infringing song would have infringed, but okay, but what was his input? And can it be subject to copyright? Was it actually a proper creation, or was it just random prompting? And all of that considerations will even complicate this question about infringement more. And I'm not now talking about the training without authorization. That's a different, I think that topic is also something very important. But this is now, yes, you had authority to use this song and this music to train, because by using it, you by default got handed authority to them. And now somebody used that platform to infringe. But did they? So AI complicates things.
And then on top of that, you sit with platforms releasing this as well. And I'm sure there must be some businesses associated with that, your Spotify's and...
Look, in most instances, Spotify and those guys, when you release music as original music, they'll part of the agreement you've got with Spotify is you guarantee that you own the rights. So the moment there's a dispute, I'll be just like, we're unlisted when this thing is not published more. But it brings me to my view, essentially, is AI there's a ethical requirement, and there's two parts to ethics. But let's focus on me as the artist in your scenario. I have ethical obligation to tell people that this is AI or part reality.
That's exactly what I wanted. Another question I wanted to ask: at what point and how do you feel about a piece of art generated to say how much AI was involved? Like, I'll give you an example. There's a big difference where I edit a video, for example, and I use our tools to help me cut the video.
Yes.
Versus
Saves time.
yes. Versus AI generated video.
Two completely different things. AI, I mean, this video is going to be edited using AI tools, because while I'm doing this, you're probably seeing both of us. But while you're talking, there's only seeing you. Now, instead of having poor Jared go through an hour's worth of footage on 2 screens, we just use a very impressive AI tool that would use the one depending on where the sound is and the promotion is. Brilliant. It saves time. It makes the videos more cost effective to promote, so we can do more. But if this entire thing, and there are tools that can create this discussion where most people won't realize it's not humans sitting. Remember, I think there's actually sorry, I'm digressing, but there's an AI actress that everybody was up in arms, but most people, you can't see it's not a human. It's very, but that's the thing. AI has that ability. So the line where AI, I want to say, admission comes in, I think would be the moment you present something to the public. The moment I am an artist and I have art, and part of the art is AI generated, you should openly, and because that's the only way we would get around this to for and against aspect, allowing people to choose. To me, if it's AI art and you tell me it's AI art, I'm like, that's fine. If it's nice, it's nice. If you saying it's your art and I find out it's AI generate, then I'm going to be extremely upset, because now you lied to me. You presented something that's not yours. And again, that you had a very, very specific word there, the amount of AI used, because there's different things. You can use AI to generate the background, because I'm not going to put 50 million stars in. I'll just have AI, but the rest of it is generated myself. So I think that the important thing is having that open, honest engagement. Yes, I used AI, but what did I use it for? Was it for the drum and bass section? Was it just for the rhythm guitar? Did I use the entire song, every single aspect? But this is how I do it. Yeah. And I think that is something that over time will develop. Look, eventually AI will probably become normalized to an extent, because it's new technology, and like any new technology, people are like, but the only way we'll normalize it is to make it part of everyday life. And the only way you make it part of everyday life is to be open and honest about how did you use it.
I mean, it's like a new industrial revolution now, yes. People are now up in arms. This is going to take our jobs. But we've proven that we as humans can adopt.
Yeah.
We work around it. We work with it, and we make it work for us. So yeah, I think we will get there.
Yeah.
And especially the last week, I've seen a lot of Afrikaans artists coming out saying they don't like the AI music being released and all of that. But I do think there's a part of us that need to accept that. I've jokingly said a while back among friends, we will get, like, you get products that says proudly South African, you'll get like proudly human, generated by human. Yeah. So we will end up in a situation where we need to distinguish.
We definitely need to, and I think being in music, or having music as an example, I think it's very easy in music to do. It will become a genre. No, but it's AI music. And the reason I'm saying that is a lot of people use AI and they openly use AI. A lot of people use it without saying it. But those who are using AI openly, yes, a lot of people are out, shouldn't be out there. It's like when, 21 years ago, I can remember every single Afrikaans newspaper in the country say, "Folk of Politica shouldn't be out there." Now, every single Afrikaans newspaper celebrates them because they are amazing Afrikaans musicians. Yeah, some people like them, some people don't. But again, that's the choice of the listener. So, and I'm using them as an example because I remember that discussion article I actually read where the guy went out of his way to say how bad this is and everything. And it's still like, but they've got thousands of followers and their music is good. Have you listened to the music, or are you just looking at it as Focal Politica and the word and how dare you thing? And 20 years later, they are, every single Afrikaans person knows them, whether they like them or they don't. AI should be similar, AI music specifically. Choose. If I don't want to listen to AI music, I won't. If I want to, I will. Similarly to if I don't want to listen to Kurt Darren, I won't, or if I want to, I will. Just because it's there, out there, doesn't mean the rest of the music doesn't exist. I'm not stepping on Kurt Darren fans, please. Just an example. But the fact is, the fact that AI music exists doesn't mean you as a human artist won't. And I think that's the important distinction. And it's getting to a point where we're involved with I'm going to say battle of the bands for lack of a better word, but a national schools music contest that has 3 genres. It has primary school bands, high school bands, and AI. And there's obviously rules and requirements and stuff like that, but it's one of the categories for the school kids to, okay, great. You either need to be in a band or you can provide us a AI-generated track subject to you giving us the prompt, because I want to see how the copyright aspect we spoke about, how creative you were actually, and you need to prove that it is you singing in your lyrics. So you can't give me something. So there's rules about it, but the music can be AI-generated. And the reason I'm pro that approach, and I know some people will hate me for this, but the reason I'm pro that approach is if you're a 16-year-old that has this amazing sounds and stuff and this concepts in your mind and hearing music and these ideas of, oh, this is going to sound so cool, but you just purely do not have the ability to put it out. You can't play an instrument. You don't understand a lot of the like those. You can't write notes. You can't play an instrument. You don't know how synthesizers and stuff work. How are you going to put your music that's in you out there? Here's a tool that can do it. Obviously, use the tool. You're still musical. You just have a different instrument that's AI in this case. And to me, it's why shouldn't we allow people to do that? Subject, obviously, to a lot of criteria, and it should be creative. They need to prove that it was them and not just write me a song. But if, like, I can't paint, but I wish I could. I've got images in my mind. So if I use AI and explain to AI in great detail to create this image that's in my mind, it doesn't mean I'm not creative. It just means I can't paint. But the image is there. I can visualize it. And I think that's something that a lot of people, especially musicians and artists, forget, that you can draw, you can play an instrument. Just because they can't doesn't mean they don't have the creativity in them. And now I know we're going into this, yes, but what if it's this gray area? And how do we draw that line about, yes, but were you actually creative? Yeah, give me the prompt, Arthur.
Yeah, I do want to. So I agree with him that why I like that idea that there's this category for AI generate is we AI is the worst it's ever going to be at this time. It's only going to improve.
Yes.
And it might be at the point where you cannot distinguish between human mode and AI. That might be the case. And we need there's a certain part where we need to embrace this. And it's also technology. I mean, there was a point where you had vinyls, I think, your CDs, and it's streaming, and so, but vinyls never died out.
No, I've got a stack of them.
And
you don't still buy new ones.
Exactly. So I think either way there will always be a niche for the market. But yeah, so I want to embrace the AI, but within in limitations, right? Where I want to challenge that is people are, especially artists, are up in arms. AI, it shouldn't be used at. But AI, looking at the data to learn this neural network or whatever the case might be, use existing information. But a lot of artists get inspired by existing information. They also tap in by amuse another artist, and they utilize that. And there's many examples of that. So why are they so against AI if they also utilize
Inspiration.
the same inspiration that AI does?
No, to me, and we saw that in the artist industry, the visual artist industry, is it's a lack of understanding. Yes, there is a lot of misuse. Don't get me wrong. There's a big portion of misuse, and it's going to be in the music industry as well. But there's misuse in any technology. When you've got new technology, you will have your people that use it for benefit, and you're going to have the people that use it for negative aspects. But the non-understanding of this is similarly. Okay, I don't like AI because, and again, an artist, they don't like AI because people use it to create things that looks like their art. Okay, so are you going to burn down every print shop because they print stuff that looks like yours? Are you going to, as a novelist, destroy the internet because somebody publishes infringing work? No. The person sitting behind it is the one. There we completely understand that it's a person that's involved. The person is the one doing our, not a printer, not the website publisher, the person behind now. But AI, and this is the narrative we created for ourselves. We're making AI, it's a human. It's AI, it's a thing. And we forget that AI is not a tangible thing in the sense like humans are. It's a tool. There's a human behind it that will be the one group of people behind it. They are the ones doing right or wrong. And the moment the artist's mindset shifts, the musicians, everybody, actually anybody's mindset shifts to somebody used AI to have an impact on me. Not it's AI that's making this music. No, there's somebody making the music behind AI. Either they'll accept it more because they'll realize, oh wait, there's a person behind this, or in the point where it's a negative thing, they'll realize it's not an AI that's infringing. It's not an AI that's stealing my music. It's a person that's behind it, stealing the music. Because you intentionally go and feed data into, hey, make me a song that sounds like this. Make me an image that looks like this. You're giving it something you want it to go.
100%.
And then you're wrong. But going back to the aspect where you say the inspiration side, and this is now argument's sake, what you would do is I used to be in a rock band. I love Fugu Felicica and those guys. So our music was highly influenced by it. It wasn't Felicica, not nearly. We were never that good. But it was highly influenced by that style. Like they were influenced by a lot of artists. But it was very distinctly there. So how do you do it with AI? You don't just give it one or two things. You give it a multitude of things for it not to be biased towards, I want something that sounds like this. No, I want something that sounds similar to this genre. And then you're fine. Then you're in line with how we as humans do it. Because the moment I as a human say, I want to copy that, I'm going to copy that, then I'm infringing Lucky Assholes. I think this guy's name is Kyle. Then I'm infringing the Kyle design. But if I take, and it's a very cool graphic, like I know it's AI generated because they're AI firm, the guys that did an art, but with a lot of creation and input and stuff. So if I copy that, I'm infringing the company that owns that thing. I'm not infringing AI, but the fact is I'm going to infringe. However, it's a very specific graffiti style. So if I feed AI training data of a graffiti style, I'll obviously give it a lot. And Kyle will be in this pool of data. So it's not going to copy Kyle, it's going to copy the style.
Yeah,
similar to music. If I'm going to copy Fugu Felicica's one song, and I know I'm now hammering on it, so let's go somewhere else. If I go and say Taylor Swift's new song and I create that, and I copy that, I'll be in trouble. Similarly, if I ask AI to copy that, I'll be in trouble. And I think that's the thing. It depends on the use, the inputs, where the problem is. So if I can be inspired by, as a musician, by this group of this volume of music, then the tool that is AI should be able to use it within reason and obviously laws and stuff. And I think that discussion can have a different. But yeah, if it's inspirational, yes. If it's flat out duplicate this, no.
And coming back to copyright, how would you? Will that be determined on a case-by-case basis?
Yes. Copyright will always be a case-by-case basis, without a doubt. It has to be a case-by-case basis. You can't not have it like that.
Okay.
And it's whether it's AI or not, it will always be case-by-case.
Okay.
Definitely.
I'm just looking at my questions, and
Yes.
I think we answered.
Yeah, a lot of things. We've been chatting for almost an hour now, so I think, well, we can. I think this is where we're going to start losing the people, and they should just chat. No, I think we dealt with a lot of detail. And I think there's obviously going to be questions. So having a chat like this again makes sense. But I think that the key point about AI and generative AI is it comes down to understanding the principles and the laws and stuff like that, and then ethics on how you are using it and how you are openly stating that you used it or not. That's the key point.
Okay, and it covers. And I see the one question we didn't drill into, but I think then covers it is the risks of using AI.
Yeah. Risks are, I think the risks are something we should look at a later point. There's always risks, but there's risks in anything. Using AI, the key thing is just remember when you use AI, you're feeding the AI information because that's how they work.
100%.
And your risk is there.
Yeah, and if you don't own the copyright necessarily, then the risk is anybody can copy it.
That's right. That's true. Yeah, and which brings us back to understanding the laws and their principles, because if I did not create it because I didn't put in enough, then I don't own it. Then obviously anybody can create it because it's not mine. case by case. That's the thing. And so, no.
And I think this means that it will feed your business.
Oh, yes. No, we like data. Yes, because it's going to be new problems that needs new answers and new approaches by guys like us in relation to our industry. Intellectual property infringement now is as another way it can infringe, as well as a new way it can be created, like the design. Yeah, you can create, therefore you can own IP, but because it can create, it can also infringe, therefore we can enforce. So it's just, again, a new tool.
And I think on that note, if people out there that wants more information or another follow-up.
Yeah, well, there's a way to get all of the details. And yeah, let us know if you want us to have another chat about AI and anything specific. Don't come here with, oh, how does research AI work? It's boring. but no, the principle is there. No, but I have to thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for the opportunity. I think
Nice chat.
you answered my questions coming from film industry, so I appreciate that.
And then I think is the important thing is as long as we can keep asking questions and getting proper answers. AI is here to stay, that I know, but understanding it, we need to have discussions like this. Thanks. Brilliant.